people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Ahead of the Tiara Brown fight, Skye Nicolson is chasing a lasting legacy and is winning on her own terms. She said, I know the importance of having a rest from the gym and from intense training, Nicolson told Boxing News, but I also work on outside aspects and other important things in my life, so when I have my downtime from the gym, it's important to be doing all this other stuff as well. I do it because I love it, so I don't find it draining as such, but I also know the importance of listening to my body and making sure that I am training smarter. So I am not going to put myself in a position where I am overtraining. I have only had 3 fights this year, whereas before I was having 4 or 5 fights a year. Now the fights are more important, there is more pressure, there is all that other stuff that goes with it, and you have to listen to your body more. That's how it goes. The activity starts to wind down as the opponents get better and better, the camps, the fights more physically draining. The fighter doesn't fight as much as they did at the start of their professional boxing career. Skye Nicolson might as well listen to her body equally. More and more of the often fickle boxing fan base are starting to listen to her. Nicolson and Raven Chapman recently created a little slice of history, the first female fight to land on one of the big Riyadh season megacards. Nicolson made a supposed even fight on paper look anything but as she cruised to another one-sided decision over a fighter who many thought would beat her. A lot of people thought the Raven fight was a 50-50 fight. Nicolson says, of that pivotal night in her career, a lot of people thought that she would beat me and that she would be too much for me. I said before the fight it would be a lot of the same stuff. We didn't see the best of Raven Chapman. She wasn't herself that night. And that wasn't even the Raven Chapman we'd seen before. But that's because I didn't let her, and people don't want to give me the credit for what I do to my opponents. They make excuses for them instead of looking at what I do. I feel that there are more believers now than there were 12 months ago with each performance, and every time I beat someone who everyone says will be a tough fight for me, more and more people get on board, until I get the opportunity to get in the ring with those big names who probably don't really want to fight me. Will I really get that recognition? That moment in time isn't lost on a fighter who, not so long ago, was thinking of putting her professional career somewhat on ice to chase unfinished business on the Olympic stage. I very much soaked up the whole moment. I was aware before the fight how big and special that moment was, Nicolson relayed to Boxing News, but obviously, winning and performing and all those other things put extra pressure on you because of the importance of the moment. Looking back on it now, it was a very special event for me, but to truly appreciate how special that moment was probably won't come for a few years, but I did feel very humbled to be in that position and to have that moment. Boxing is a dangerous sport. When I was quoted as saying that, I was asked by someone in the press when I was going to stop smooth sailing through these fights and stand there and have a fight and go for the knockout. Why would I make the fight hard for myself if I don't have to? Why would I risk getting brain damage? Why would I risk getting my face all smashed up when I can completely outclass someone without putting myself at risk at all? I am still getting paid the same. I'm still winning every fight, every round of every fight. There will be certain styles and certain fighters where I will have to stand there and fight. But at this time, nobody in the pro game has made me have to do that. I do want to experience that sort of thing, but I'm not going to go through that if I don't have to. I do want a fight where someone makes me uncomfortable and I have to show other things, but I'm not going to risk putting myself into those positions when I can beat someone without doing that. I can fight, but people haven't got to see it yet, but it's there. When someone is good enough to bring that side out of me, then we'll see it. But that's on my opponent. If I can play with you and cruise over 10 rounds, then that's on you. It's not on me. There are fighters out there who could do that if they bring the right game plan. I thought Raven could do that. I went into the fight expecting Raven to push me and make me uncomfortable, but she couldn't execute what she needed to do. There are girls out there who can, and they will force me to fight, but I have got the answer to that. You just haven't seen it yet. Addressing her safety-first based style, pure boxers have it rough because when they're having it all their way, it's not a free-for-all. It's not a barn burner. The audience doesn't always appreciate it, a la Shakur Stevenson. Though Skye has fast made herself one of the most recognizable fighters, if not the second most recognizable featherweight in the featherweight division, second only to Amanda Serrano. So, in spite of her style, she's still on the right track. My confidence has grown because I'm constantly getting better. I believed in myself then. I believed I could beat Amanda Serrano 2 years ago. I can definitely beat her now. I'm getting better in every single fight. I'm getting better in every single camp. My confidence grows with my skill set, so naturally, I am going to become even more confident. I think you need to believe in yourself 100%. If people see that as being arrogant, then that's their opinion. I'm very respectful of anyone and everyone. I'm always respectful. I do think arrogance and self-confidence can cross over a little bit. I'm never going to disrespect anyone who gets in the ring with me. I'm not saying things to be arrogant. I am saying things because I just believe that I am better. I just believe in myself. And some people might take that as arrogance, but it's never intended to be that way or to put someone else down. It does feel less and less likely as the months go by, but for me, that is the big legacy fight. But in the same breath, I'm going to create my own legacy. At the end of the day, if I am beating everyone who is put in front of me and making history doing my thing, and even if the Serrano fight doesn't happen, then my name will still be in the history books, and I want to be remembered as one of the best female fighters of all time. I know what I am capable of, and I know how good I am, and I am happy to prove that over time. I don't think she's going to get the Serrano fight because Amanda has bigger fish to fry, and that's just the way it is. We've been all through that, but at the same time, the featherweight division is deep enough that Skye Nicholson's legacy doesn't ride on whether or not she gets Amanda in the ring. There are enough girls there now, very good ones, and some unbeaten, that so long as she can stay in character against them, that's a legacy unto itself. Perhaps Skye Nicholson's legacy fight ain't gonna be Amanda, maybe it'll be Karis. Karis Artingstall. Looking pretty formidable herself. She just fought Raven Chapman, that's a common opponent between them, and she looked pretty goddamn dominant against Raven too. So maybe it's kismet that these two amateur rivals,
Perhaps it's fate.
that these two represent the next wave of featherweight fighters, featherweight champions, and they may end up being the last two women standing when the dust settles.
Their legacies might be defined by a fight with each other, though first, Skye's got to make it past Tiara Brown, so we can't put the cart before the horse.
What's next for Bam Rodriguez?
We'll be unifying the division, and that'll be announced very soon.
Will that be in America?
Yes.
Well, it's about goddamn time, because I was getting impatient. I was starting to wonder, is Matchroom doing right by Bam Rodriguez that he's at Superfly, and a unification match seems just as elusive now as ever?
Well, who's he going to unify with?
I'm not completely sure because via the WBA's website, reigning WBA champion Fernando Martinez is set to be going into a rematch with Kazuto Ioka in Oda City on May 11th.
It's been back and forth when it comes to Fernando Martinez's next fight. The Ioka rematch is on, the Ioka rematch is off, and the last I heard, last I saw via the WBA's website, it would appear he's going through with that rematch and it's going down in a few weeks' time.
And thus, the WBA champion may be spoken for, as well as the WBO champion Fumilela Kafu, who was said to be defending his title in May, that same month, in South Africa. Opposite the ring, Andrew Maloney.
Fumilela was rumored to be facing former champion Chocolatito for some weeks and some months, but it appears that all of that fell
apart, and now he could be facing Australia's Andrew Maloney in defense of the brown belt. That's the last thing we heard when it comes to him. So if Fernando Martinez is spoken for and Fumilela is spoken for, who does that leave for Bam to unify with?
Well, here's the thing. It's not like the fight between Fumilela and Andrew Maloney was finalized. It actually wasn't. It just seems like it was an idea that they were bouncing around. And I don't imagine that fighting Andrew Maloney in South Africa pays better than fighting Bam in America. So that could perhaps be who Bam
ends up fighting, which would satisfy what some of the critics have been wanting to see from Bam, that while Bam has been in there with some high-profile names, recognizable ones at or around these weights, these are guys that were past their prime, like Carlos Cuadras or Gallo Estrada, Sor Rungvisai, great fighters in their time, past their prime. They want to see him in there against somebody younger, somebody unbeaten. Enter Fumalele Kafu that ticks off on the both of those boxes. He is younger than those guys, he is an unbeaten champion, and he could be who Bam ends up fighting next. Eddie Hearn didn't give it away. What title is he going to unify? He didn't confirm that it was Fumalele Kafu. There is a separate scenario that would allow Bam Rodriguez to fight in a unification match in his very next fight, even if the other two champions are busy and are doing other things. There's a separate scenario because the IBF title is still registered as being vacant, the title that Fernando Martinez used to hold but was stripped of. As a result of the Kazuto Ioka rematch, the IBF knew that he was committed to going into that second fight, and thus they relieved him of the red belt, and it's been vacant ever since. Pretty damn stupid if you ask me. They were in such a hurry to strip this guy of the red belt just to not crown damn champion yet all of these months later. In any event, that belt is still available, it's still registered as vacant, up for grabs, and maybe what Bam's gonna do is fight for the vacant IBF title in unison with his own against the IBF's highest-ranked contender. That's what they did with Joshua versus Klitschko when the WBA title was vacant. They petitioned the WBA to let them fight for the belt in a unification, and that's what happened. So maybe that's what they're going to do here with the IBF. The IBF's highest-ranked contender is Mexico's own Wilibaldo Garcia Perez. Ranked behind him is Rene Calixto, and ranked right behind Rene is Argy Cortez. You figure that if this is how all of this breaks down, Bam will end up fighting one of these three guys from the IBF's rank standings for that vacant title. Could be one of them. So we'll see. It's all subject to speculation, and that official announcement is said to be coming down shortly via Eddie Hearn. Maybe it'll be for the vacant IBF title. Maybe they will have convinced Fumalele Kafu to fight them instead of Andrew Maloney. We'll see. But Bam does need to unify. They need to get a move on that. It looks like they're about to. Men's junior middleweight news, a second look at Keith Thurman's post-fight comments about being non-committal to a Tim Tszyu fight, saying that he's open to other offers. Keith Thurman followed his victory over Jock Barvis by insisting he isn't committed to fighting Tim Tszyu. On the occasion of his first fight at junior middle, at the Horderton Pavilion in Sydney, Australia, he stopped the 27-year-old Jarvis in 3 rounds. Wednesday's fight also represented his first fight in 3 years. Thurman had been scheduled to fight Tszyu for the WBO title in March of last year until a bicep injury forced his withdrawal and jeopardized his career. Tszyu subsequently lost to Sebastian Fundora, who at late notice replaced Thurman as his opponent, and Bakram Murtazaliev, contributing to the perception that Thurman's injury has also threatened Tszyu's career. The Australian 30 has returned to his home country to rebuild. Should have never happened. He's a star in his own country. He was more of a star in Australia than Thurman was in America, so why the hell would you be flying out to fight him? He should be flying out to fight you. That is what set all of these events in motion, and to that end, Tszyu fights Joey Spencer on April 6th in Newcastle, Australia, that both Thurman versus Jarvis and Tszyu versus Spencer are in quick succession, being overseen by No Limit Boxing, and have the history they do suggests that more than just speculation surrounds the possibility of them finally fighting. But Thurman is adamant that he hasn't signed a contract to do so, and that he is therefore open to other offers. I'm open to any contract right now, the 36-year-old said. Tim Tszyu's not finalized. It's very easy to say. It's very easy to talk about. He came off of 2 losses. He needs to get a W. I can't say that if a great contract was to come to me from the United States, that I wouldn't sign it and hold interest in Tszyu. But it was a lot of fun being here in Australia. It was a lot of fun performing under No Limit Boxing, who are doing a fantastic job promoting boxing in Australia. I know they would love to see a fighter of my caliber continue to put on some of the best fights out of any other promotional company here in the country. We can negotiate those things if I don't have a better offer that comes to the table. You know, a lot of people wonder what Keith Thurman has has, but Keith Thurman has the heart and the will of a champion today, tomorrow, and forevermore. Thurman continued, I knew that Jarvis can't do more than what he did in round 1. All he can do is repeat that and potentially land cleaner shots, but I was keeping them smothered. I wasn't letting him work. It was important to get back in the ring. It was important to make a statement. We had a lot of good hype. I was a 7-time national champion. I had 81 wins, 11 losses before I ever turned pro. I've always been in the ring with some of the best. I never lost internationals as an amateur. The IQ is real, man. That's why I was able to do what I wanted to do in round 1, which was let him show me his strength, his power, then in round 2, start to execute my tactics.
After so much time away from the sport, not having fought in 3 years, I imagine that Thurman is happy with himself that he was still able to do that. But let's put these things into context. Brock Jarvis used to fight as low as 135 pounds. A very brief stint at 140 where he was knocked out in 1 round by Liam Bottle.
Then he jumps all the way up to junior middleweight. So don't get a big head, Keith. This was a glorified tune-up fight, and I'm sure that No Limit Promotions paid him handsomely to come out there and have it. But you're getting a big head way too fast. You're getting ahead of yourself, and now you're entertaining the idea that someone in America might offer you something better than a Tim Tszyu fight? Who?
For what dollar amount and to fight who?
This performance is for you. It's for this country, and it's a little bit for me on the note of I signed my contract last year in 2024. I trained hard in preparation for Tszyu. I popped my bicep tendon in the 11th round of sparring in preparation for that fight. I walked away from big money in Vegas, the type of money that makes you want to fight one-handed.
Oh, stop it.
Being here is the evidence of my spirit, of my resolve to always stay true to myself and give you guys the best performance that I can and not just fight for the money, which is really hard to do at the top level. A lot want to fight for the money. I fight for the glory.
Oh, stop it.
The glory of knocking out Brock Jarvis of all people and then wriggling out of the Tim Tszyu fight. It would seem to me that whenever that fight rolls around, there's always some reason for Keith to bail. Last year it was a bicep injury. This year he's non-committal.
Based on imaginary offers nobody's making.
What I think is going on is Keith might be trying to finagle an even bigger purse than initially agreed to for the Tim Tszyu fight, because he's saying he's willing to walk away.
If somebody in America makes him an even better offer for a better fight, except that nobody has. And what better fights are out there, those are not fights that Keith Thurman wins.
Bakram Murtazaliev, Virgil Ortiz. These are more perilous fights, more dangerous for a Keith Thurman than a Brock Jarvis was. So don't lose sight of reality.
Keith Thurman doesn't all of a sudden become a force to be reckoned with at junior middle because he knocked out Brock Jarvis. Liam Bottle knocked out Brock Jarvis.
Coincidentally, in less time than it took Keith. No, what I think Keith is doing is angling for a bit more off the top, a bit more money by threatening to walk away.
We know he's not afraid to sit out. He's done that plenty.
That receding hairline allows him to save millions on haircuts that he doesn't need.
Just playing hardball so that he can drive a hard bargain. An even harder one than they initially agreed to. That's what I get from it. Especially if Tim goes back to looking like a wrecking machine in the Joey Spencer fight. Keith is definitely going to want more money.